his thoughts on advancing to a runoff with former city council member Amanda Edwards following yesterday's election. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. We'll also be joined by Houston Public Media politics and government reporter Andrew Schneider. He'll help us unpack the results of yesterday's election.
Plus, we'll chat with one of the stars of the Neil Diamond musical, A Beautiful Noise, which is on stage now at the Hobby Center.
And we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Democratic Socialists Zohran Mamdani will be the next mayor of New York City. NPR's Brian Mann says Mamdani defeated former Governor Andrew Cuomo and Republican Curtis Sliwa.
A year ago, Mamdani, who will be New York's first Muslim mayor, was relatively unknown, and Cuomo was a political titan. But last night, it was Mamdani declaring victory.
The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty.
Cuomo was hobbled in this race by sexual harassment scandals that drove him from office in 2021. In his concession, Cuomo voiced anger at Mamdani's embrace of socialism.
We support an economy of jobs, of opportunity, of entrepreneurship.
But many of Mamdani's supporters say his victory was a sign voters want a new, more hopeful politics. Brian Mann, NPR News, New York.
Cuomo was endorsed by President Trump, who threatened to withhold some federal funding to New York City if Mamdani won. First responders are searching for more possible victims at the site of yesterday's UPS cargo plane crash at Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport. Governor Andy Beshear says at least 9 people have died.
But I'm now fairly confident that that number will grow by at least 1. We hope it doesn't grow by too many more. I believe by this afternoon we'll have a pretty good grasp of both the number of fatalities and, if there are any, the number of missing persons that we're still looking for.
Authorities say at least 11 people were injured. Video showed flames on the plane's left wing and a trail of smoke. The aircraft crashed as it was departing for Honolulu. Today, the Supreme Court hears arguments in a case testing whether President Trump may, acting on his own, impose tariffs under a federal law that does not specify that it covers tariffs or duties on imported goods. NPR's Nina Totenberg reports the president is relying on what he calls his emergency powers.
The Supreme Court's conservative supermajority has in the past been receptive to Trump's claims of presidential authority, but most of those Trump victories came in cases involving the so-called emergency docket, allowing Trump policies to take effect on a temporary basis while the litigation played out in the lower courts. The tariff cases are the real thing, with the court having ordered full briefing and expedited arguments. On its face, Trump's opponents have a strong case, but the court is often reluctant to second-guess presidential determinations on questions of national security. Nina Totenberg, NPR News, Washington.
U.S. stocks are trading higher this hour, the Dow up 193 points. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. A local political scientist says that she's surprised at the closeness of the city council at-large 4 race in yesterday's election. Alejandra Salinas and Dwight Boykins are neck and neck right now, with that race heading to a runoff election. Salinas, though, had a slight lead after the votes were counted. Nancy Sims teaches at the University of Houston.
I think people weren't expecting her to do that well. And so that was a little bit surprising. She had raised a lot of money and worked really hard. And Dwight Boykins had relied very heavily on his name ID of having served in office before.
Sims was speaking on Houston Matters. The runoff election is December 13th. The Harris County Clerk's Office says that voters almost broke the record yesterday for the highest voter turnout the county has ever seen in an odd-year election. In total, more than 439,000 ballots were cast, which is slightly less than the record set back in 2023. Today is the end of the line for Polk Street as a way to connect downtown to East Downtown. The street is slated to be shut down for construction work related to the expansion of the George R. Brown Convention Center. Residents of East Downtown will have to find another way of getting downtown on already congested streets. Many of those living in the area have raised concerns about the closure. They want the convention center to go over Polk Street to their new wing and keep Polk Street open. The Houston ISD Board of Trustees will add 5 new members to its non-active board. Maria Benzone won District 5, Michael McDonough is in for District 6, and incumbent Bridget Wade will keep her seat in District 7. Under the Texas Education Agency, the Board of Trustees has no governing power. However, they will begin to regain control when the takeover is scheduled to end in June 2027. 2 more seats, District 1 and District 9, had candidates running unopposed. Felicity Perea and Myra Guidry will assume those seats respectively. In sports, the Rockets are back on the floor tonight. They will take on the Memphis Grizzlies, attempting to get their 5th victory in a row. They've got 4 wins and 2 losses to start the new season. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from BetterHelp, committed to making mental well-being a priority and offering support in taking on everything life demands, with therapists available to communicate via video, chat, or phone at betterhelp.com/public.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Well, hello. Okay.
Hello.
Frank's here.
I'm
Ernie's
here.
here. Celeste, she's not here today.
No, she's not here today.
Celeste is out, but I'm sure she is with us in spirit and probably will be back here tomorrow.
Good.
Yeah.
So how was your night? You did a great job last night on the elections.
Well, thank you. I was here on air, and we went live at 8 o'clock. And as we kept saying, we're going to go 8 till 9. Well, we went to about 9:30. We went a little long. There was a lot to talk about. It was an interesting night. Great turnout last night for voters in this area. They heeded our warning. What's the expression I'm looking for?
They listened to your plea.
They listened to our plea. They went out and they voted in record numbers, still relatively small considering the population of the area and those registered to vote, but still strong for an off-year election. But you know what? A lot of people are thanking you, Frank Billingsley, for that.
Oh, because of the weather?
You gave us great weather to go out and vote.
Across the country,
yeah,
there were really no weather issues for voting, and there were a lot of interesting races all across the country, as you know. So you're right. And the weather continues to be no problem. So whatever your plans are as you go into the weekend, you're in great shape. In fact, a little warming trend, and then a dry, cold front comes in on Sunday and cools us back down.
Yeah. To go back to the election day weather, it's funny how we think about weather as, okay, what are we going to wear tomorrow and what's my commute going to be like? But you don't think about how weather impacts things like going out to vote. Massive movements of people are changed by what our regular weather does.
I think that's true more and more. Only because people get all this information about the weather. You know, maybe in the old days, they were like, oh, it looks pretty good outside.
I'll go out. Oh, my God, I got caught in the rain.
Oh, my God, caught in the rain. Here, you know you're going to get caught in the rain long before you get there. So it probably does influence people even more today than it has before. But it was nice to see a great turnout.
It was.
And it was heartening to see the turnout that actually the results. I like the results.
Well, a big race that was in our area was for Texas District 18, Congressional District 18. There's going to be a runoff there. The 2 candidates that made it into it are Amanda Edwards and Christian Menefee. I mention that because in just a few minutes, Christian Menefee, the Harris County attorney, will be here with us to talk about his victory last night and now starting another race.
I have
He's got
a race.
I
have
in
a
runoff.
lot of questions for him. for him.
Well, good.
He's a nice guy, too. I like him.
He is. And there's a lot to unpack after yesterday's election, and there's nobody better to help us unpack the results than News 88.7's government and politics reporter and my co-host last night, who was on all that time. The two of us were here all day yesterday, and we started getting a little slurry in our speech. It's Andrew Schneider. Hopefully he got a little bit to sleep, because you were back on Houston Matters this morning talking about this again.
That's right. I was on Houston Matters, and then I was on the Texas Standard, and here I am doing the trifecta.
And now you made it full circle back to where we were yesterday at around this time. Andrew, welcome back. If you have questions, comments, or you'd like to pipe in about what you thought about yesterday's election or the results, give us a call right now, 713-440-8870. You can call us or text us at that same number, 713-440-8870. Okay, Andrew, let's just start broad with, really, were there any surprises last night for us in our area?
Not particularly. Most of the polling that we'd been seeing running up to the election had suggested that it was going to boil down, the field of 16 was going to boil down to acting Harris County Attorney Christian Menefee and former Houston City Council member Amanda Edwards. They wound up in a very tight two-person finish with Christian Menefee coming in at about 29% of the vote and Amanda Edwards at a little under 26% of the vote. Jolanda Jones, State Representative Jolanda Jones, came in third place at about 19%. Nobody else cleared the 10% margin.
So hold 1 second there. Does Jolanda's endorsement mean a lot now going into the runoff? Because the top two candidates move to the runoff, whenever that happens, probably in mid-January. Is her endorsement important at this point?
I think it is. I think it is for primarily because these are very low turnout elections. The first round of the special election was even as a near record turnout for an off-year election was relatively low. It's going to be even lower come January or early February when we have the runoff. And motivating people to get out to the polls, they're going to need every advantage that they can, and certainly having State Representative Jones weigh in on this, telling her voters to go with one or the other of the remaining candidates could make a big difference.
I'm curious, what in the world would she say? I've looked at all of their platforms, and they're all the three the same candidates. They're all for education. They're all for against crime. They're all for helping the homeless. I mean, they all are solid Democrat positions on all three of them. So what does Jolanda Jones, in your opinion, say? I think you should vote for Amanda because of X or Chris because of X.
I think it would probably come down to their biography and what they bring to the office.
Experience or platform?
Both. Well, I think in terms of their experience, in terms of which one she thinks would make a better member of Congress, a more effective member of Congress in order to deliver on those promises.
Right. That is, at the end of the day, what you need to be there doing.
Right.
Yes. Do you think that she'll favor one or the other, or do you have any clue?
I don't have enough insight into who she would select. I mean, up until this point, she has been making the argument for herself,
yes.
and she has been, and it would have been a very difficult question to pose to her. Who would you support if it's not going to be you? I think probably she's going to spend a lot of time making up her mind, and we might not see that endorsement for some time.
Then there's still 13 other people that were vying for that position. What happens to them? And I ask that because, and we'll get into this with Christian Menefee in a little bit too, as soon as this runoff election happens, they're moving right into a primary race because they have to then try and get the actual full term of the seat. But at the same time, the maps could be changing. Are these 13, and I asked you this last night, I'm still going to stick with this until someone agrees with me on it, that these 13 really are looking at what is next and where they go. And so their endorsement would be very important, I think, in moving forward.
Well, remember that this was a mix of people from the Democrats, the Republicans, and the Independents. And I would imagine that the Republicans on the ticket, who are now completely shut out of the special election, are going to be immediately refocusing their attention to the primaries. I don't know whether Carmen Maria Montiel will be looking to make that run. She's already run a few different races, and I haven't taken a look at what resources she has remaining, whether she thinks that it would make sense to make another run in this or to possibly make a run in one of the other redesigned districts. But as far as the remaining Democratic candidates, I'd be particularly interested to see what Isaiah Martin does, because Martin, along with Edwards and Menefee, raised over $1 million, and he had a substantial amount of money left over at the end of the race. So that money's got to go somewhere. Unless he's planning to give it back to the people who donated it to him.
Doesn't seem likely that.
The question then becomes who he is going to support and how he's going to support them.
We don't do a lot of exit polling for those kind of local races. Any thought about why Chris and Amanda came out on top?
I think part of it was simply because they had the biggest lead time. They got into this race very early, even before it was officially named for November. In fact, this was a big point of contention for both of them, that the Governor Abbott waited so long to call this race. But they also had a significant amount of name recognition even before they got into the race. Menefee as a sitting elected county officer, Amanda Edwards from having not only served on Houston City Council but having run for Congress previously. They're both very well known across the area as a result of their previous campaigns, and I'm sure that in an election like this, that played more than a sufficient role in terms of getting them where they went.
A little bit on the timing of what we're looking at, too, so people understand. This runoff won't happen at the same time as the city council runoff.
Correct.
This one has to have so many days, so mail out ballots, because this is for a statewide. It's because of statewide or national?
It's because of something called the MOVE Act, which is a federal law designed to allow participation for military personnel serving overseas.
So that tends to put this runoff into January.
At least, yes.
As soon as that is done, and then the election is certified, which I assume will happen relatively quickly, this person could be seated. We talked about this last night, seeing that Speaker Johnson has been a little slow to seat Democratic members to Congress. How long could we go before the 18th actually has representation again in the U.S. House?
Well, I think the big question is, in terms of that, is when is the government going to reopen? Because I think one of the reasons that Johnson has been able to avoid swearing in Adelita Grijalva as the representative from Arizona's 7th Congressional District, which we were talking about last night, is because of the shutdown.
Right.
So if the shutdown extends into January, we're going to have a whole range of other problems beyond that. That will be one of them.
Take me closer to home then. We had our at-large city council seat, and we got a runoff there.
Right. So that was an even narrower race. Trial attorney Alejandra Salinas came in with about 21% of the vote. Former city council member Dwight Boykins from District D came in at just over 20% of the vote. They were trading places across the evening. Dwight Boykins came in with an advantage insofar as his former district on city council significantly overlapped the 18th congressional district, so he was counting on people knew him. He was counting on that as a boost. He's not going to be able to count on that this time in the runoff because, as you said, the runoff for the special election for the city council is going to be in December rather than in January. So Alejandra Salinas was raised significant amount of funds. She also garnered quite a bit of attention over the past few years in terms of defending a number of lawsuits for other Democratic candidates who had been whose elections had been challenged by different Republican candidates that they lost to. So it's going to be an interesting race to watch.
In both of those runoffs, will they be the only votes on those ballots?
I believe so, yes.
So that's going to be hard to get people. So if you folks got tired of me telling you to vote for November 4th, I'm going to be pushing for you to get out there and vote in the runoffs. Those are extremely important. And as we've said, a handful of votes can make a big difference.
Right. I mean, we've seen that. We've seen that particularly in the Houston area in the last few years, where there have been a couple of elections, I think, that actually came down to a tie, which were decided by literally by a coin flip. So
we don't yet know when these runoffs are going to be, though.
The runoff for the city post is going to be Saturday, December 13th. Mm-hmm. The federal election has not been set yet.
Who sets that? Do we know?
I'm not familiar enough with the way the MOVE Act works to be able to determine when that would be.
It has something to do with 70 days or something, but no later than 77 days. So there's kind of a range that it has to happen in, if I'm not mistaken, in the MOVE Act. And so the date within that time frame hasn't been picked. I'm assuming it probably has to come from the governor, because all of this has been held by him.
Yeah, I suspect you're right. So I would imagine that he would probably push it out as late as he possibly can within the federal guidelines.
Right, but there is an end point. So they're going to have to finally have this vote
sooner or later.
Someone. Yeah.
So the amendments, all 17 passed, and I was looking, none of them were even close.
No, the closest one, if memory serves, was. I'm sorry, I would have to double check on that one. But
while you're looking, I will say, though, the interesting thing is, yes, all 17 passed statewide. In Harris County, though, 2 didn't, which doesn't make a difference because it's the totality of the state. But the Harris County voters voted against both Proposition 6 and Proposition 17. 6 had to do with a tax on securities, which Andrew can explain better than I just did, and 17 was on the border.
Right, and 6 was actually the one that came in closest. It passed statewide by a little under 60%. So, pretty healthy margin, if not compared to the other constitutional amendments. And that one relates in part to the coming establishment of a Texas stock exchange. Yeah. It would basically prohibit taxes on security sales. And we were talking about this morning in Houston Matters. Part of the reason may have been there was some confusion over exactly what it would accomplish. But the other one that did not pass in Harris County was Proposition 17, and that was on giving a property tax break to people who are actually paying for construction of border security related infrastructure on their property. Right. And if you'll remember, there was a negative endorsement of this by the Houston Chronicle, something to the effect of, this is not something that the government is paying for. This is something that people are paying for themselves. And why should taxpayers be on the hook for that?
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. Prop 10, the tax exemption for homes destroyed by fire.
Andrew and I were just talking about
90% said absolutely. It's like we're all a little afraid that our homes could be destroyed by fire.
Well, it really is one of these strong bipartisan pitches. Who can really be against giving a tax break to people who have been burnt out of their homes. I thought, going along lines with that, the one that passed by nearly as much, about 86% of the vote, was a property tax break to the surviving spouses of veterans who died from diseases related or medical conditions related to their combat service.
When you look at it and you see, like we said, now it makes no difference into how things will proceed for our state that Harris County did not endorse 2 of the amendments. What does it tell you about the voters in Harris County? Is there a reason those 2 amendments rang truer to say we're against it even though the rest of the state went for it?
I think what it speaks to is that Harris County voters, partially because they had other items on the ballot, went out of their way to inform themselves about what those amendments meant. I think in a lot of cases, it's very easy to go out and vote all yes or all no based on what your political leanings are.
Yeah. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you last night for your work. Thank you for the work you've done this whole election season. And if you thought you were getting a rest, nope. You got 2 runoffs coming up, and then we get right back into it again. So no rest for the wicked. Andrew, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Andrew Schneider is our politics and government reporter here at Houston Public Media who keeps you informed. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, District 18 congressional candidate Christian Menefee will join us to talk about last night's election and the upcoming runoff and all the other stuff we're going to ask him right here on News 88.7.
Want to binge All Creatures Great and Small, catch up on Nova, or revisit Ken Burns' documentaries? You can with PBS Passport. With a gift of $5 or more per month to Houston Public Media, you'll get access to PBS Passport that lets you watch your favorite programs anytime you want. Support the programs you love and enjoy them on your own schedule with PBS Passport. Make your gift now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
You can listen to Marketplace. It's coming up tonight at 6:30.
The Trump administration is firing scores of immigration judges, and an NPR investigation shows there may be some common threads.
Anyone who ever represented a non-citizen at any point in their lives, whether they also worked for DHS, whether they worked for ICE, that seems to be the indelible stain that got them fired.
I'm Juana Summers. Hear it from the judges themselves on the next All Things Considered from NPR News.
You can hear it this afternoon at 3 o'clock.
Support comes from GenPro, a Houston-based home generator service providing power to homes during unexpected outages. More information at genpro.com or by calling 713-597-3521. Support comes from the Clarion at Brazosport College in Lake Jackson, presenting the New York Tenors with the Brazosport Symphony Orchestra, November 9th. Tickets available at brazosport.edu/Clarion or by calling 979-230-3156.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous and Frank Billingsley.
Democrats Christian Menefee and Amanda Edwards advanced to a runoff Tuesday night in a special election for the U.S. House seat that has been vacant since March. Menefee, who currently serves as Harris County Attorney, and Edwards, a former Houston City Council member, were the top vote getters in a crowded field of 16 candidates. Neither received more than 50% of the votes, sending the race to a runoff that is expected early next year. The winner is to serve out the remaining term of Democratic Representative Sylvester Turner, who died 2 months after taking office representing the 18th Congressional District. Joining us now is Christian Menefee. And if you've got questions, comments, you want to talk to him, give us a call, 713-440-8870. First off, we have to say congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It has been a very, very long 8 months of campaigning, but what we saw last night was a broad coalition of folks came together, put us in first place in the first round, and so I'm incredibly excited and proud of the work that we've done, and I had a good night's rest last night, but back to campaigning again this morning.
Yeah, no rest for the wicked, as we were saying to Andrew, because now you've got to worry about the runoff, which comes next. But for people to understand the schedule of this, too, as soon as that's over with, then there is the race actually to fill the seat for a full term, and then that begins with the primary season for March already. So you're not going to get any rest if you're planning on continuing this. And then there's also the whole understanding an issue of what happens with the maps and which districts become what. So it's a complicated next set of months for you, I would assume.
It really is. Anyone who thought when they first got into this race that this was going to be a straightforward endeavor was sadly mistaken. We've had to deal with the governor delaying the calling of the election. We've had to deal with the president of the United States reaching out to the state legislator and asking them to gerrymander the maps, changing the district. We've had to deal with 16 different people in the race in a jungle primary, which is something that does not happen often in the state of Texas. And now, of course, we're waiting for the governor to call a runoff. and then there will be the primary, and there could even be a runoff after the primary. So it's a good thing that I wake up early in the morning, hit the gym, and eat my Wheaties, because this is nowhere near over.
I liked your ad. I thought it was very clever, where you were kind of all over your house, and then you say at the end of it, you're driving your kids to school, and you say, "I'm going to school Trump." What do you mean by that?
It's so funny because when we put that ad out, I had no idea that that would be the line. I won't just take Trump on, I'll take him to school. I had no clue that that would be the line that stuck with so many folks across our communities. When I was out at the polls, person after person said, "Take Trump to school." And it was really a reflection of what I was hearing when I was talking to people at their doors. The number one issue that folks wanted was someone who was going to rein Donald Trump in. He has conducted himself in many ways like a petulant child, acting outside of the bounds of the Constitution, acting outside of the bounds of federal law, disrespecting the other branches of government, doing things that are obviously illegal. And so I believe what folks want is, when Democrats take back the House, they want real oversight. They want real investigations, and they want a Congress that's going to act as a co-equal branch of government.
So your thoughts on, I guess, the election in New York and Virginia and Georgia? There was a lot of schooling last night.
Oh, big time. And you heard it in the remarks from many of the successful candidates, including Zohran Mamdani, the now mayor-elect of New York City. Folks are reflecting the will of their constituents, which is they want an all-out defense and protection of communities from the assault that President Trump is ravaging on our communities. And so this is a national thing. It's stuff that you're seeing across the country, but I've been shocked at how it permeates throughout every single demographic. I knocked the door of an 80-year-old African-American woman, and when she came to the door in that 30-second period before we started talking, I said to myself, she's going to care about Social Security, she's going to care about Medicaid. She looked at me and said, "Young man, what are you going to do about Donald Trump?" It is a real issue for Republicans. It's a real issue for working class folks in our communities who are losing SNAP benefits, losing Medicaid. And so I plan to go up to Congress and not only advocate for my district, but also be a real oversight authority over the president as part of a Democratic majority in Congress.
Is Mamdani the new voice of the Democratic Party, or is he an outlier?
I think he's absolutely one of the voices of the Democratic Party now. What you're seeing is a base that is ready for a new generation of leadership, to stand up on behalf of working class folks. No longer are the days of the Democratic Party simply mimicking corporate messaging and doing the best they can to protect corporations. Folks want real grassroots leaders who are going to go out in leadership positions, hold the powerful accountable, and advocate on behalf of working class folks. Zohran Mamdani's campaign was all about that. And he also embraced forms of new media, like social media, like podcasts. People want to hear from us directly. And so I'm glad to see that we have, a fresh face in New York City, and I plan to do every single thing I can to reflect the generational and approach change here in Houston as well.
Well, and getting away from the polite Democrat approach, because that hasn't been working, you, Mamdani, and certainly Gavin Newsom, what's your thought on the California governor?
I'm glad that the governor is fighting fire with fire. Look, in a perfect world, a race to the bottom with gerrymandering would help no one, right? At the end of the day, minorities in states like Texas are going to be the ones that bear the brunt of gerrymandering. So if I ruled Congress, I would want to pass a law that bans all gerrymandering. But unfortunately, Republicans in Congress are unwilling to vote for such a law. So until then, I think Democrats have to fight fire with fire, because it's the only way that we're going to be able to protect a true representative democracy in Congress that actually allows the will of the people across the various states. What I'm most concerned about, though, is that this race to the bottom is going to result in states like California only having Democratic representatives and states like Texas only having Republican representatives. In a perfect world, in my mind, every single district throughout this country, or as many as possible, would be somewhere between 48% to 52%. That way, you got to talk to everybody. You have to be the voice of everybody. Unfortunately, we're seeing more and more politicians are picking their voters instead of voters picking their politicians. So if it were up to me, I would ban gerrymandering. But since that's not the world we live in, you got to fight fire with fire.
So speaking of compromise, which we all wish for, do you think that this sort of Democratic sweep last night will light a fire under the Republicans to come to the table with this shutdown?
I certainly hope so. But if there's been anything, Frank, that we've seen over the past, let's call it 9 years, about the Republican Party and how you acquire power in that party, it's that the single most important factor is how much you pledge your allegiance to Donald Trump. It is the cult of personality that surrounds that man. So I think that if we were looking at this through a traditional historical political analysis, you would say, oh, yeah, well, based on what we saw in the election results last night, we need to play nice with the other side because that's what America wants. However, I think in the Republican Party, Donald Trump transcends traditional political analysis and reality. And so I think folks on that side are going to do whatever Donald Trump says. He says jump, Governor Abbott says how high. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality we live in right now with the Republican Party.
Christian Menefee is with us right now. If you want to join the conversation, 713-440-8870. We have a call from Mike from West Houston. Welcome to Hello Houston, Mike.
Good morning, candidate. Thank you. Good radio station. Candidate, if you make it to Washington, D.C., I like everything that you've said so far. You will be representing one of the most cosmopolitan cities in the nation. And you will also be representing the entire nation. In dealing with the opposition, many of whom are fanatics and some of them are quite deranged, how are you going to handle it? Thank you.
Yeah, so the question there is, how am I going to handle dealing with the most extreme elements of the MAGA Republican Party? And my approach is through individual interpersonal relationships. Look, I can get along with just about anybody. When you come from a background like the one I came from, where my family had sent more people to prison than to college, and I was the first person in my family to go to college, to working at a couple of large law firms where just about nobody in the office looked like me, I've been able to navigate those spaces. And the way I've been able to do that is to build relationships with people on an individual level. That's why when a large corporation wanted to expand a landfill more deeply into a black neighborhood on the northwest side of town, I teamed up with Republican Commissioner Tom Ramsey to stop that from happening. That's why when cigarette companies tried to get our kids hooked on vaping products and peddled them in our communities, I teamed up with the Republican Attorney General, who shall not be named, and we went after them in court, and we were able to get tens of millions of dollars back to our communities. I don't agree with our Republican Attorney General on just about anything. However, when there's an opportunity to do well for our communities, I was able to set that aside, build a relationship, and get it done. So I don't care if you are from the blue party, the red party, whether you're black, white, or orange. If you are willing to work with me to get stuff done for my communities, I'm willing to work with you on that one issue. But there are going to be times to hold the line, and I will hold the line on those times. I think what's important for Democrats to remember right now is we need to show a backbone, we need to fight, and you have to fight with a scalpel and not with a sledgehammer. That's who I've been as the Harris County attorney. That's who I'll be in Congress.
You know, Frank was mentioning earlier, looking at the top three vote getters in this particular race, that from position points of view, you all seem to pretty much align. So for voters to understand the difference, what are you going to point out as the difference between Amanda Edwards and yourself, and why you are more in place to carry this mantle forward?
I think the suggestion from the gentleman who just called in and asked this question was, if you have a bunch of folks who are intent on stripping out the democratic norms we have in the co-equal branches of government, how are you going to deal with them? How do you fight back? And I think I'm the only candidate in this race who has a track record of fighting back and winning to protect our communities. When Donald Trump himself cut more than $20 million in healthcare programs right here in Harris County, I took him to court, beat him, and every single dollar was restored. When the Attorney General tried to throw out more than 2,000 legally cast ballots in Harris County, I took him to court, beat him, and every single vote was counted. What people are looking for is folks that they can send out to Washington, D.C., and they will be sure, regardless of which room they're in, they will fight for our communities. I have a clear track record in my 4 years of being Harris County attorney of doing that time after time after time in a way that was never for headlines, in a way that was never to get invited to luncheons or galas or any of that insider class stuff, but because I believe deeply in the power of our communities and advocating for working people and restoring the middle class in this country. So I think what voters are going to be looking for is receipts. And if anybody in this race tells you that they will fight for you, there's nobody who has more receipts in this space than I do.
We are talking with Harris County attorney who's currently in the runoff for the Texas 18th Congressional District to represent us in Washington, Christian Menefee. If you want to join the conversation, 713-440-8870. Pat is on the line from Central Houston. Pat, what's on your mind?
Well, I'd love to know his opinion on Citizens United decision that the Supreme Court handed down a few years ago. I sort of feel that it's been a real scourge to the people being voted one person, one vote. and has handed a lot of our power to the corporations through a lack of campaign finance reform.
Pat,
I'd like his opinion on that and whether or not he would fight against it.
Yes, we'll find out right now. Thank you for calling, Pat.
Thank you very much for the question, Pat. I 100% support any type of statutory change that we can to address the Citizens United decision, which basically says that a corporation is a person and that money is speech. And so therefore, folks can put any amount of soft money, which is when you pay money into a race, but you don't give it directly to a candidate, but you advocate for that candidate or against the candidate separate from the campaign to any dollar amount. And so we've seen a bunch of large organizations be able to pour millions and millions of dollars into these races. And what it does is it strips away the true local nature of these races. When I run for office, I want to be able to just talk to people in my community. I don't want to spend all day on the phones asking people for money because, I'm concerned that somebody's going to come and drop $5 million in my race against me because they don't like where I stand on one particular issue. I think we severely need campaign finance reform in this country. And that's why I have not taken a single dollar of corporate PAC money in this campaign. In the first round, we raised $1.7 million in this campaign. And that's from folks throughout our communities. We had an average donation of about $80 a pop. Folks were chipping in because they believed in us and they believed in the message. I have not accepted corporate PAC donations. I will not accept corporate PAC donations. I think we need to get that type of big money out of our politics and return to the days where you were able to truly represent the will of your district and not have to become part of the in the Beltway class in order to be successful in elections. So thank you very much for your question, Pat, and I will do everything I can to fight against that nonsensical Citizens United decision from the United States Supreme Court.
A couple of YouTube comments. One from Alex says, Christian, thank you for your Rainbow Walk address on October 14th. Another from Charlie Parker says, thank you for protecting working people against corporations. And we have a couple of questions from our newsroom. First of all, Christian, what exactly will happen with your position as the acting Harris County attorney?
Under the law, Commissioner's Court is authorized to replace me by a vote of 3 members of Commissioner's Court at any time that they please. The item was on the last Commissioner's Court agenda. They discussed it, and I think it'll be on the next Commissioner's Court agenda as well. So Commissioner's Court is free to replace me whenever they so choose. But under the Texas Constitution, I must and am required to continue serving until I am replaced. So I have happily done that. And we've gotten a bunch of wins even during the course of this campaign. We recently went after a couple that was committing deed fraud and had stolen dozens and dozens of homes from people throughout our communities. We beat them in court and we were able to get more than 40 people their home ownership restored. And I'm so incredibly proud of that. But I'll be replaced at the will of Commissioner's Court. And I trust that they'll make a great decision to ensure that that office continues to fight and advocate for everyday folks throughout our county.
So is that strictly an appointment or is it later an election?
So it is an appointment to determine who serves in the immediate term, but it is automatically, by state law, goes on the ballot for next March. It'll be on next March's primary and then next November's general, and then it will again then return to the original term, so it will be on the ballot for 2028 as well. So anybody interested in serving as a Harris County attorney would run here in 2026 and then would have to run again in 2028, and then they wouldn't run again until 2032.
Okay, it seems to me that you and Amanda both are going to be fighting for Jolanda Jones supporters. And you all three, as Ernie pointed out, are sort of on the same page when it comes to issues. So what are you going to say to Jones supporters to bring them to your camp?
Well, I've talked with many supporters of State Representative Jolanda Jones. Let me tell you, the brand that State Representative Jones has built over her career is being a fighter. Anybody knows her knows that she is not afraid to use her voice to stand up for communities. She's not afraid to throw the punches when necessary. And I think that directly aligns with the work that I've done as Harris County attorney. So what I plan to say to supporters of State Representative Jolanda Jones is the same thing I've been saying throughout this entire campaign. I will fight for you and I will win for you. And here's the evidence to prove that I have done that in my time in public office, and I will continue to do that. And I don't think that anybody else in this race will be able to point to receipts of them fighting for communities and having success at doing it. So I feel very good about the message that we're going to be able to present to those voters, and I feel good that they will understand it and that they will embrace it.
With the uncertainty of the maps and what's going to happen with the maps, does that make it harder to get endorsements from different potential candidates because nobody seems to know who's going to be running against who and where over the next set of months? Is that a complication you see?
It's a huge complication, not just for candidates, but for voters. There were so many folks who I talked to who had no clue that an election was going on, let alone who was running in this one versus the next one. When is the next one? If we have one in January and then again in March, oh, how can I vote in March and not just voted in January? But this is what, to me, is just so shameful about what Governor Greg Abbott did. In 2022, when Philemon Vela left the U.S. House of Representatives, it created a vacancy. The governor called that election to take place just a couple of months later, in June, in fact. And one of the reasons he gave was we need an immediate election because hurricane season is approaching, and we don't want to be in a situation where people don't have access to a federal representative to bring resources into their communities. The governor then looked at the 18th Congressional District under a nearly identical set of circumstances and said, you don't get a representative. I'm going to delay yours till November. Now, the reason he gave was absolute nonsense of the county is unable to run a good election in that quick of a time period. But the real reason we all know it's because he wanted to help Speaker Mike Johnson keep a tight margin in Congress, and because he was asked to do so by both the Speaker and the President. That's how shameful our politics have become, and the people of the 18th Congressional District are bearing the brunt of that decision. It was this district that has the highest number of SNAP recipients of any district in the state of Texas that had to be without representation when the vote was cast on the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill. It's this district that has folks who are underinsured or uninsured who are now going to have even higher hurdles to getting Medicaid. I hate that the governor did that, but you can bet every dollar in your bank account that one day Greg Abbott plans to run for president. And when he does, I'm going to make it my personal mission to make sure that people across the country know what he did to this black and brown district, all for the sake of politics.
All right, so with that in mind, we're expecting a decision shortly out of the El Paso court on whether or not to allow this redistricting map to stand for the 2026 primary election. If they do, there is a very real chance that Congressman Al Green will enter the Democratic primary for the 18th Congressional District. So how concerned are you about facing such a primary if you do win the runoff?
I'm not concerned at all. My approach to public service is you do what you have to do in order to serve well and serve honorably, and you leave everything else where it is. So my decision to run, my decision to serve has nothing to do with any other elected official or candidate. I'm just going to run my race and talk to people about my record and what I would bring to the table in Congress, and then let everything work itself out. I'm committed to the people of the 18th Congressional District. I'm committed to serving long term. And that's the case regardless of whether there's 15 people in the race, as was just shown in the first round of this race, or whether there's 2 or 3 people in the race.
You know, we are facing right now, we're in the middle of this government shutdown, and God willing, whoever gets in to represent the 18th Congressional District, there won't be the shutdown still going on at that point. But I'm curious your view on where we are with this shutdown. And if you were in Congress today, what would you be doing to bring it to an end? Are you in alignment with what the Democratic Party has done and are holding out on, or would you be looking for a different path forward at this point?
I'm in complete alignment with the Democratic membership of the House of Representatives. Look, this shutdown is because the Republican Party has no control over their president. He is set to let the subsidies for the Affordable Care Act expire, and premiums are going to shoot up for folks across our country. In a standard political scenario, if a Democratic president was about to do something that was going to directly harm my constituents, I would get on the phone with his staff and say, what the hell are you doing? We need to make concessions so that we can ensure that people's healthcare prices, this is something that, healthcare should be guaranteed to everybody. But since it isn't, we don't want to make it so expensive and unaffordable for folks. I would get on the phone. I don't care if it was Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, whomever. I would get on the phone with that staff and say, hey, this is wrong. We need to address it. The Republican Party has no ability to do that with Donald Trump. He has singular control over that party. And because of that, you end up in a situation like this where the president won't budge, and millions of people throughout this country, including many who voted for Donald Trump, by the way, are now going to bear the brunt of his bad decisions. And on top of that, this president has stepped outside of the bounds of the law multiple times since he's been in office. He is spending funds that have not been appropriated. He's refusing to spend funds in ways that have been congressionally appropriated and already obligated. Democrats can't just continue to sit back and allow the President of the United States to move us towards authoritarianism. I'm glad that they're taking a stand. I think the president needs to come to the negotiation table, do the right thing so that we can get past this, the government can open back up, and we can move forward as a country.
Well,
Harris County
yeah,
District
thank
Attorney.
you for being with us is what I was going to say. And
Yeah.
good luck.
Christian Menefee, thank
very
you.
much.
Currently in the runoff for the Texas 18th Congressional District. That election will happen early next year. District Attorney, thank you very much for joining us.
God bless. Thank you very much for having me on.
A program note, on tomorrow's show, the other candidate to make the runoff, Amanda Edwards, will be with us. Coming up, though, next, The Life of Neil Diamond, presented live on stage right here in Houston. Stay with us. This
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
Daily guide to the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston.
These counties have been growing a lot.
I think what has been holding us back is the fact that for 2 legislative sessions, schools didn't really get an increase in funding.
If the storm surge comes up the ship channel, that's a nightmare.
There's an acceptance at cons that you don't get elsewhere. No judgment, and it's beautiful.
I'm Craig Cohen. Join us for the next Houston Matters, weekday mornings at 9 here on News 88.7.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous and Frank Billingsley.
All right, Ernie. As you know, Sweet Caroline is my go-to at every karaoke I've ever been at in my entire life.
Well, I don't know that I know that, but I know you like the song.
Well, a lot of people know it. A lot of people have suffered through it. Let me tell you, I was one of the first to see the Neil Diamond show last night at Hobby Center. And for that very reason. Neil Diamond is one of my favorites, as he is for so many people, having sold more than 130 million records worldwide.
Wow.
I know. I mean, if you're looking for another metric of his success, there's also a smash hit musical based on his life, the one I was at last night called A Beautiful Noise, the Neil Diamond musical. It tells the true story of how he became the show-stopping, award-winning rock icon he's known as today. It's running through November 9th down at Hobby Center. To tell us more about it is one of the cast members who plays Diamond's first wife. I think he had 3. We can ask Tiffany. Tiffany Tatreau plays Jaye Posner. Welcome to Hello Houston. You all did a wonderful job last night.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Okay, I guess the first question has to be, were you a Neil Diamond fan before you got into this show?
I was. I grew up in a house that played Neil Diamond records, and I have, many of the originals that were my dad's that are now in my New York apartment waiting for me when I eventually get home. But, some of these songs had lived. These songs are such classics that you can't really walk outside without hearing them. They're ubiquitous in our culture. Sweet Caroline or I'm a Believer for the Monkees. These songs just exist everywhere. So you kind of show up going, oh, I didn't know about that one, and I didn't know about that one. So those definitely already were in my brain.
I think what people don't know is how some of them came to be, like I'm a Believer being written for the Monkees, and the whole, I'm not going to give it away, but the whole idea of how Sweet Caroline came about as basically a song to get him out of a contract.
Yes, so we do get some of the backstory as the show really circles around each song and what those lyrics meant to him, why they came from him, why that song needed to be written at that moment, whether that's from his days as a just as a songwriter before he was also the performer, writing songs for the Monkees like I'm a Believer, or writing the song Red, Red Wine, just all these little moments where the audience sees his impact before he became the Neil Diamond that we all recognize now.
So I was going to say, we've seen a lot of the clips from it showing on Broadway, performing on Broadway, and Neil Diamond would be there at times. I'm curious, his involvement, how much was just an endorsement from a man who said, okay, do this, to somebody who was actively involved in what was being put on stage?
He's been very actively involved. I mean, this show was put together not only endorsed by him, but in collaboration with him. He doesn't have a, Oscar biopic or a docu-series or anything like that, or a memoir to really tell his story. Really, it was he wanted to tell it in a musical. And so our extremely talented creative team put this together, and they talk about the day that he showed up to the first, presentation, just sitting down with scripts in hand, presenting this material to him in this way, and how nervous they were to get that feedback from him. And he obviously loved it and continued to work on it. And it's been a great joy to see. He came out to the tour in July in Los Angeles, and we all got to share the show with him in this iteration and then get to say hello afterwards. And he sang Sweet Caroline, and it was pretty spectacular.
Okay, how weird is it to perform someone's life story while they're sitting right there?
It is pretty weird. I mean, it was delightful. It's kind of crazy to say, like, oh, these are real people. This is a real story. And I think that's what was so fascinating about it, is that they're not, they are characters in a sense, but there's a huge respect for the real stories of the real people. Beyond this being a rock star celebrity rise to fame, this is a man with real love and loss and struggles and things that we talk about very delicately and we handle with care. And it's an honor to do that. I mean, it was pretty intense to do that in front of him, but it was one of the best days of my career by far.
Sure. Yeah. I would think, if anyone's read anything about the show before they go to it, it starts out with him in therapy as an older Neil Diamond talking to his therapist, who he even gives a tribute to in the play or in the playbill. So. It looks back on a life that wasn't perfect, that did have a lot of marriages, failed marriages, that didn't spend as much time with his kids as he had wanted to, and felt the constant pressures of being a megastar, which a lot of these shows that you see about celebrities that have these great lives as musicians, you never really see that. You just see how they came up to be where they got. They had a few struggles, but they are stars at the end of the day. But Neil Diamond seems to say, you know what? This has been a hell of a ride for me, and it wasn't easy.
Yes, I think that is what is so impactful to our audiences. I think they come in expecting the razzle dazzle and the spectacle and the sequins and the dance and the stadium shows and the big rock star, and we get those moments. But there's also this introspective reflection when you're really looking back on so many decades of life and all of the ups and downs that they hold, and what it means to reflect and say that was a chapter and I accept it. And I think that is what's really beautiful, and what really becomes quite moving to the audience in a way that is surprising is the journey of a man that I think is a lot more relatable than you would expect a rock star to be.
Yeah. I loved your lines with him when your divorce happens, and it starts with this. I agree with you. We should split up. This is a great idea. And the therapist says, "Oh no, that is not how it went." And then she breaks out, and she breaks out and says, "This is not what I bargained for." You really let him have it.
I feel at a loss here. Last night was election night, so I didn't come and get to see the show last night. I'm coming on Saturday, and then afterwards we're going to do a talk back with the audience, and I get to moderate that with you folks. So that'll be fun. I'm curious, when you talk with the audience, what surprises them, or what surprised you about their take on what you have just put out there?
Oh, it's so great when we get to talk to the audience and we get to come out. I mean, you feel it. You feel it when we get to the end and they have the release of the final moments of the show. And when we get, spoiler alert, we're going to sing Sweet Caroline one last time. And they get to sing along full voice with us. That moment is so much fun every night to take in everyone's faces. And I love to watch people, we say hands touching hands, and just you watch people grab each other. And that moment is palpable every night. But when we get to really sit down and take in the feedback from them of all the little things that they grab that you're not quite sure anyone sees, but they see, how incredible the noise is what we call our ensemble, and they are the noise within they're Neil Diamond's inner life and inner thoughts. And so we kind of see them tell his story in a more subtle way. And when the audience comes in and they want to talk about each individual noise and that noise's attitude versus this one, that means that they're really engaged with us, and that's very fun.
It was wonderful. Tiffany Tatreau, thank you for being with us, and you did a great job. And A Beautiful Noise, the Neil Diamond musical. It's wonderful to see it. It plays through November 9th at Hobby Center. Coming up, we're going to dive into today's top stories. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello, Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
What I've always tried to do in my music is just tell the truth.
Who am I really? Get into the minds of some of the world's most creative people.
Totally exploring their ideas.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you everything.
The Arts Hour brings you the finest arts and culture conversation from across the BBC and beyond.
It's the variety. That's the world that interests me.
The Arts Hour from the BBC.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Good Reason Houston with the 2025 Houston Public Education Snapshot, tracking how Houston's schools are preparing students today for a living wage tomorrow. Learn more at goodreasonhouston.org.
79 degrees. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, Texans have approved all 17 statewide propositions on yesterday's ballot. We'll discuss this and more as we dive into the top stories of the day. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Ernie Manous. We'll also speak with Dr. John Cooke, chair of the Department of Cardiovascular Sciences at Houston Methodist, who will give us the lowdown on anti-aging supplements.
Plus, Houston Cinema Art Society Executive Director Katie Creeggan-Rios will join us to tell us all about the upcoming Houston Cinema Arts Festival.
And we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on YouTube. Just go to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The Israeli military has taken a group of international journalists into Gaza to observe the dividing line between Israeli-occupied Gaza and the area where Gaza's population lives under Hamas control. NPR's Daniel Estrin reports from inside Gaza for the first time after 2 years of war.
I feel like my heart sank just climbing up to the top of this mound of dirt, looking at this expanse of destruction, piles of cement, bombed out schools and homes. Israel, for its part, is active. The war is over, but it is still locating tunnel shafts, demolishing them, and other infrastructure. And Hamas, for its side, is regrouping in Gaza. We are here accompanied by Israeli troops, but Israel still, more than 2 years after the war began, is not allowing journalists into Gaza independently to interview Palestinians and to see their lives up close. Daniel Estrin, NPR News, Gaza.
American voters care about the economy. Campaign messaging about affordability helped Democratic candidates outperform Republicans in the first major elections since President Trump returned to office. It also offers a playbook for the higher stakes midterm elections next year. In some key outcomes Tuesday, Democrats won governor's races in New Jersey and Virginia. Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger is the first woman elected to Virginia's top office. On NPR's Morning Edition, she discussed her approach to immigration and customs enforcement actions in the Commonwealth.
My approach will be when there is a warrant signed by a judge, certainly law enforcement can and must work with federal agencies. That's how I always worked task force or joint issues. But I do not want local Virginia law enforcement doing the administrative actions of ICE, particularly at a time when it drives so much fear and confusion within our communities.
Democrats prevailed in 3 state Supreme Court contests in the swing state of Pennsylvania. who said yes to redrawing the congressional map in California to counteract Texas and other red states doing the same at President Trump's bidding. In New York City, Zohran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist who campaigned on affordability issues, was elected mayor. His progressive policies have made him a target of Republican campaign committees, which have begun launching new attack ads against a number of vulnerable congressional Democrats. In Maine, voters rejected a GOP-backed measure that would have required people to show their identifications at the polls. Residents there also approved a red flag rule to make it easier to keep potentially dangerous people from accessing guns. From Washington, this is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Election Day has now come and gone, and it's still unclear who will win the two biggest races on the ballot. In the special election to fill a vacant at-large seat on the Houston City Council, Dwight Boykins and Alejandra Salinas appear headed to a runoff. Jordan Thomas was one of those who fell short, coming in third place. The former City Council candidate was a long-shot candidate with little name recognition, but he did receive the Houston Chronicle editorial board endorsement for his willingness to criticize Mayor John Whitmire. He received 16% of the vote, which he says shows support for his priorities.
Whether you are a progressive or an urbanist, or you hate that HPD is collaborating with ICE, whatever brought you into this campaign, those things still hold true for me. They still hold true for you, and they have not been getting the type of voice that they need at City Hall.
The special election for the vacant 18th Congressional District seat has also headed to a runoff. Former City Council member Amanda Edwards and Harris County Attorney Christian Menefee will face off early next year. Voters approved all 17 proposed amendments to the Texas Constitution. Many of those measures restrict the creation of certain taxes. Meanwhile, the Cypress-Fairbanks ISD School Board of Trustees has voted out their conservative majority. Leslie Gilmart, Cleveland Lane Jr., and Kendra Camarena have won their bids for seats in Districts 5, 6, and 7. Here's Gilmart at the victory party.
So to see the margins in the early vote and mail ballots come in is really affirming and beyond my expectations. But you know what? That's what I've been saying this whole time. Our coalition, this campaign, has just exceeded my expectation.
The upset means the board is losing their current president and vice president. Natalie Blasingame, the board's vice president, chose to run in District 6 against her former ally and current president Scott Henry. It appears to have split that voter bloc, costing them both their seats. The new board members will be officially sworn in on December 11th. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One, offering their premium travel card, Venture X. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Celeste is resting today, away from us.
Celeste the rest.
Celestial seasonings, wasn't that those teas you could buy? So it's just you just have Frank and me today. That's who's here.
Well, after all you did last night, you have a lot to talk about with all those elections. So.
Yeah, well, you know what? I've talked it out. I feel like I've talked. Yeah, basically, as we said earlier, in the Texas 18th Congressional District, we've gotten to a runoff. Christian Menefee and Amanda Edwards are going to be battling it out for that runoff race, which will happen probably mid-January. We had Christian Menefee on in the first hour. Amanda Edwards will join us tomorrow in our first hour to also talk.
I can tell you both. I like them both. I don't know who I would vote for just yet.
I thought that was an interesting whole race. Across our ballot, seems like we have politicians in this community, I think, that are likable.
And I like Jolanda Jones, too.
Yeah, there's a lot of good
all three
folks out there.
of the people that were running. So it'll be interesting to talk to Amanda tomorrow.
Yeah, bring it a little closer to home for Houston City Council. There's going to be a runoff there between Dwight Boykins and Alejandra Salinas, and that will be December 13th. They're vying to get that at-large open seat in Houston City Council, and Texans across the state approved all 17 of the amendments yesterday on the ballot.
Yeah.
That's
and
your whole runoff.
Under beautiful weather. They voted under beautiful weather.
It's so funny. I keep going back to that, but how much that impacts turnout.
Absolutely.
And people pay attention to it. So instead of picking the day they should have elections, they should look at their Farmer's Almanac and put them on days that are going
and it was a full moon.
Talk to me a little about what's going on with that moon.
I think the full moon, I think it excites us a little bit when the moon is full. The gravity, the pull, we're 96% water, our bodies, and the moon gives us that extra. I think when we see a full moon, we get a little excited about things. I love the moon. I'm a Cancer. That's the moon child. Anyway, it's a super moon, which only means it's closer to Earth than the other moons. Sometimes we have as many as 4 super moons in a year. It just means because the moon goes, around us, and when it gets a little closer to Earth, and as opposed to
seems
farther,
bigger.
It seems bigger. It's brighter.
It's closer.
It's a super moon. I don't know. Some marketer came up with that term.
Yeah.
I never heard super moon until about 15 years ago. And I was in the business for 42. So.
Well, maybe the moon had never come close before. It was getting warming up, and now it's coming a little closer.
Anyway, enjoy the super moon. It really is nice.
Do enjoy it. And the weather, you're going to enjoy the weather all week?
It's got a little warming trend to it, 88 by Friday, but then we see another front come through on Sunday. That's going to be a dry front, and there's just no moisture to work with out there, and that'll cool us back down.
Yeah.
But these mornings in the 50s and 60s.
So nice.
So beautiful.
But you know what really makes our mornings beautiful? Getting to share them with all of you. Remember, you can watch us on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com, or you can do it at houstonpublicmedia.org. We're right there. Just link into us. At this point, we usually go to Celeste with the headlines.
Let's
no
go
Celeste.
to Ernie.
So we're going to go to Frank with the headline.
You want to go to me?
Yeah, because you're going to tell me all about what's happening at the Houston police officers. You want me to start there, or you want to start with Texas Governor Abbott?
Start with the police officers.
I think these two stories kind of dovetail, and that's why we're going back and forth. The Houston Police Officers Union is openly recruiting New York City police officers following the election of Zohran Mamdani as the mayor of New York. In a social media post, the union asked, NYPD, are you disgusted with the election of Zohran Mamdani? Join us. The post urges New York officers to consider joining the Houston Police Department, promoting Texas as a more supportive environment for law enforcement. It highlights a recently approved 36.5% pay raise over 5 years, a supportive mayor and city council, and a police chief described as a retired Texas Ranger, not a politician. Well, that's what it says, except there's a ripple in this plan. Tell us about the ripple in the plan. Texas Governor Abbott.
You mean the tariff?
Yes.
This is such a bunch of phony baloney. He doesn't even have the authority to do this.
What doesn't he have the authority to do?
All right, Texas Governor Abbott is clearly not a fan of the prospect of people coming to Texas from New York City, even though we're trying to get people to come from New York City.
That's why I think these two stories go together.
They do go together. In response to speculation about New Yorkers relocating to Texas, first of all, I don't know who speculated about that. Because I don't know if I'll have a lot of friends who live in New York, and very few have said, hey, we're ready to come to Houston. But let's say they do. Guess what? Governor Abbott he announced this on X. He's going to impose a 100% tariff on anyone moving from the Big Apple after Tuesday's elections. The post generated lots of interactions, 16 million views, 124,000 likes, 12,000 comments as of right now. Now, first of all, Governor Abbott cannot legally impose a tariff on a citizen coming from New York.
They can't impose a tariff on a citizen.
How would you do that? On what would you impose it? What would you say?
100% of your salary?
Well, and what you're going to police who rents an apartment and on their application they came from New York City?
Yeah.
And now you say, okay,
I don't even know.
This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
To
And by the
sum
way,
it
the
up-
New York City police get a 50% pension. So
Yeah.
if they make $100,000 at the end of their 20 years, their pension for the rest of their life is $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
So I don't think a lot of them are going to give that up to come start over with the Houston Police Department.
Well, that's what I think is so interesting about these two stories together. On one hand, we're saying New Yorkers don't come here. We're going to charge you to come here. And then on the other hand, we're saying, hey, New York police, come here. We got a great place for you to be. So
Because
somebody's got to
you
talk
hate-
to each
It's
other.
all about, don't you hate what's happened in New York? And this man beat Andrew Cuomo.
Yes, he did.
The former governor of New York City.
But he'd already
of New
beaten
York.
him in the primary.
Yes.
So it should come as no surprise he beat him again in the general.
And Cuomo's so desperate, he's telling people, if you vote for the Republican, you might as well just vote for Mamdani, because you're ruined. If you vote for the Republican, you're throwing it away. It was such a little cat fight up there.
Well, let's bring it back to our cat fight down here. If you've got an opinion on either, us bringing New York's finest, as they call them, to Houston, what do you think about that? Also, what do you think about the governor threatening 100% tariff on anyone who moves here from the Big Apple, from New York? 713-440-8870. You know, at one point, I was a New Yorker. I took and I wonder if this would cover for me. I went to Chicago first, and then I moved down here. So if you want to avoid the tariffs, do you move somewhere else first and then you move down here? Is that how you do
I don't
it?
understand the tariff on. I think he was maybe making a tongue in cheek.
That's what someone in the newsroom told me last night. They were like, I think he's trying to be funny. And I'm like, well, trying is the operative word there. I don't get it. I don't understand it. You know what? Anybody who wants to come to Texas to enjoy the riches of our land, please come join us here in Texas.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But and then from being in New York, most of the cops come from Queens and Staten Island, some Brooklyn, the Bronx. So they all have the New York accent. You know, I mean, they do. I know I'm being, is that an ism? Am I being an
You're being a little bit of an ism.
Is that a languageism?
You know, even in New York, we make fun of the way people talk in New York City. So you're okay there.
Oh, everybody makes fun of the way I talk in New York City. So I'm not worried about that. But can you imagine somebody from a New York cop coming down to Houston and trying to fit in?
My problem is I went from New York to Chicago. So I've got two different ones of these extreme accents, and I don't get either of them right. And now I live down here, and anytime I go up north, they're always like, oh, you talk like a Texan. And whenever I'm down here, people are like, where's that accent from? So I don't win in either place. Okay, you know who does win? Tom Brady.
All the time.
Yes, but you know what? He just revealed that his new pup is actually a clone of his old pup who died back in 2023. The cloning was done by Colossal Biosciences, a biotech company in which Brady happens to be an investor. On the same day the news broke, Colossal, a Dallas-based company that you're probably known from their claims that they had produced 3 direwolf pups. Remember when that happened?
I don't remember that.
Oh, well, they announced that
I remember the
acquired...
lamb. Didn't A&M have a lamb that they...
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, they acquired Viagen, Pet and Equine, a firm known for cloning Barbara Streisand's dog, who died in 2017, and Paris Hilton's dog, Diamond Baby, who had 2 puppies after Diamond Baby went missing in 2022. Brady said the process gives his family a, quote, second chance with their beloved dog, and that the technology holds promise, not just for pet owners, but also for conservation efforts as well. Okay, total cost of cloning your dog or cat, $50,000. But don't worry, it can be broken up into 2 installments.
Oh, nice. So
save you some money there.
Instead
Make
of
it
those
easier.
2 Priuses you were going to buy, you can now have a clone of your dog. Okay, first of all.
Well, first, what do you think of cloning your pets? If it were affordable, would you clone your pet? I don't know why I'm stumbling on words today. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. Okay, take it away.
Never. We've had 6 schnauzers.
And they're all interconnected by the way you name them.
Well, we started with Rock, and then we named the second one Hudson. So we had Rock Hudson, and then we had Hudson River, and then we had River Ocean, and now we have Ocean Breeze. And they're all schnauzers, and they all have different personalities.
Right.
And that's what has made it such a delightful 30 years, is that you never know quite what you're going to get when you get your new puppy.
Yeah.
And even though you may train them the same way, you're the same person, you feed them the same food, no matter what. One may be the ball chaser, the other may be the the sleeper on the sofa all the time. One may like to lick your face, the other doesn't. You never know. I mean, that's what I think is delightful about pets.
Well, nature versus nurture. So just because you clone the animal does not mean you're getting your old pup back again. It's a different creature, you know?
I guess so.
It may have the same birthmarks. Its ear might bend the same way, but it is not your same dog.
More than likely, it's going to have the same diseases that killed it the first time.
Right, it's going to have the problems, genetic problems that carry.
And all of our schnauzers have had problems. I mean, one way or another, most of them have died, but they've had heart murmurs or dementia or going deaf. I mean, they all had something.
Toxic Talk Good Music says rich people's problems.
And it's the truth.
Yeah. I don't know. I mourn the loss of my pets when I lose them, and it's very hard sometimes, and depending on your relationship. But to simply get a carbon copy of it that isn't the same pet, I don't understand the logic there. That's where I don't get it.
I guess they feel like that dog was such a special dog that they need to somehow reincarnate it.
My problem also is there are
kind of playing God, isn't it?
There are so many dogs in need out there that to be bioengineering another puppy when there's so many that can use your love and your home. And I think that's what we need. We need people to go out and adopt and train them the same way and experience, as Frank is saying, the new adventure of having a new one. Yeah. Over on Zoom, our next guest coming up was just showing us a picture of their dog. And it was very cute. So we're all getting into this right now.
Well, my British computer guy says, I wouldn't. Each time I've had a pet, it was unique.
Yeah.
I feel cloning your dog would take away something from the pet owning experience. And he also says, save a dog from a shelter.
Right. That's what I'm going on.
Yeah. Way to
save
go,
a
Ernie.
pup. Don't just, and you know that $50,000 of yours, you can donate it to Houston Public Media. And we'll send you a puppy.
Here's a funny thing. I'm gonna really show my cards here. So Toxic Talk Good Music says it reminds him of Pet Cemetery. Do you know? I know the producer of Pet Cemetery, Mary Lambert. The Lamberts are from Helena, Arkansas, which is where my parents were from. And so I know the producer of Pet Cemetery.
Well, good for you. I'm very happy. What I do know is that today is November 5th. Celeste isn't here to give us the date. I guess I just did, November 5th.
It's November 5th.
It's a Wednesday. It is.
We have a call, by the way.
Well, hold on a second. It's National Donut Day. Don't interrupt.
And you know what? I've looked 3 times. I can't find them anywhere.
I know. We've been on this donut jag here on the show, and there are no donuts around. Also, it is World Tsunami Awareness Day.
Well, there was one in Puerto Vallarta, a tsunami warning, but it was a test just yesterday. I know.
And National Love Your Red Hair Day. And that is if you have red hair, or is it someone who has red hair, you should love them?
Well, I'm a third Scottish, so of course I have red hair. I'm not going to tell you where or show you.
Moving right along, we do have a call going back to the New York story we were talking about. Colby from Katy is on the line. Hello there, Colby. What's on your mind?
Oh, hey there. Well, a whole lot to unpack from all the things y'all been talking about.
We've been all over the place today.
Right. Well, which also brings me to, y'all were talking about the full moon earlier. I just thought it was a fun fact that the term lunatic comes from the Latin for moonstruck.
Oh, interesting. Thank you, Colby.
Yeah, so
tell us something more.
Full moon brings out the lunatic in all of us.
Because of that pull of the fluids in your body, maybe.
Well, they used to say, like, as the werewolves, come alive on the full moon, and that crime really increases during a full moon. But a cop told me the reason for that is because you can see better, which makes sense.
Colby, you were going to comment also on the New York stories, I understand it.
Oh, yeah. There's a whole lot of silliness going on here regarding, the reactions I'm seeing from the MAGA bunch. And for a bunch of people who tend to spout the phrase, F your feelings, they do seem to be overly emotional right now.
I think for the Republican Party, it was a tough night last night. They didn't see but in some ways, we may be reading more into it than we should be because they were primarily Democratic areas that were having these interesting races. And so the surprise of Democratic winning is not probably that big a surprise, but it does say the tone of the nation that they did come out to vote that way.
Yes. And, these folks who say, hey, people from California, people from New York don't come here, I find it kind of funny because, well, California had more votes for Trump than Texas did.
Mm-hmm.
They just have more people.
Right.
But also, like, the kind of people who would leave New York and California to come to Texas are not the kind of people that they're afraid of coming to Texas.
Mm-hmm. Colby, thank you for your comments and your thoughts on that, and we always appreciate hearing from you. Remember, if you have a comment, a thought on these topics, give us a call, 713-447-8. Well, I just screwed up the number. What is our phone number here?
440-8870.
Thank you, 713-440-8870. Does cloning your pet, this was a text we got, only match the DNA? Pets surely will not have the same memory or characteristics. Why not just get another dog that looks similar and call it by the same name?
All right, coming up on Hello Houston, we'll talk with Professor and Chair of the Department of Cardiovascular Sciences at Houston Methodist, Dr. John Cooke, about anti-aging supplements. I hope he brought some with him. This is News 88.7.
Hello. I'm Bob Maniger from the Ed and Jean Matthews Foundation. PBS has been a part of our family for generations, and we are proud supporters of Houston Public Media. From PBS Kids programming that supports children and their parents to PBS NewsHour that we rely on to learn about what's going on in our world. Your support keeps PBS available for our community across Greater Houston. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Next time on The Middle, AI chatbots like ChatGPT and Claude can save you a lot of work, but are you worried that artificial intelligence is going to take your job, whether it's white collar or entry level?
I fear for the next generation because all of the experience that maybe we got in our 20s and 30s, there might not be that kind of ladder available to them.
Andrew Yang and Axios tech reporter Ina Freed join us next time on The Middle.
You can hear it tomorrow night at 8 o'clock.
It's open enrollment season, and for the 20 million Americans who buy their own health insurance, that means higher prices. Meanwhile, a government shutdown drags on over whether to extend subsidies that make health insurance more affordable. Next time on 1A, how did health insurance get so expensive in the first place? And what you need to know about the costs now.
You can listen to 1A. It's on this afternoon at 2 o'clock.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Hildebrand MBA at UT Austin's Macomb School of Business, offering the Weekend MBA at Houston. Campus visit November 8th. Details at texasmbaevents.com. Make it here.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from the 45th Annual Houston Ballet Nutcracker Market, coming to NRG Center November 13th through 16th. Early bird and general admission tickets available at Ticketmaster and select HEB business centers.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous and Frank Billingsley.
So right before we went to break, we were talking about some of our tops. We were asking, should New York Police Department officers relocate to Houston? We put a poll on our YouTube channel. 71% of our listeners said, no, thank you. Only 29% are opening up their arms for the NYPD.
No thanks.
No thanks.
No thanks.
Okay.
All right. You'll say yes to this. The global market for supplements in general and anti-aging supplements is booming. Billions of dollars spent each year on pills, powders, promises to slow or even reverse the aging process. But how much of that promise is backed by real science and how much is just clever marketing? Joining us to sort fact from fiction is Dr. John Cooke, Professor and Chair of the Department of Cardiovascular Sciences at Houston Methodist. He's been studying the science behind aging and what really works to keep our bodies healthy over time. Dr. Cooke, welcome to Hello Houston. How are you?
Thank you, Frank and Ernie, for inviting me to your show. Looking forward to talking to you today about
supplements and aging.
If other folks want to talk to you too, remember you can join the conversation. You can call or text 713-440-8870.
Well, you look great. You must be taking something. Tell us.
I'm taking my wife's advice, basically.
There you go. That always works. All right, supplements in general. And I'll admit to you, I don't take a single vitamin. I took a multivitamin for a long time, and then I started reading up that you get vitamins from food. So I don't take any vitamins. Do you take vitamins?
Listen, I can't argue with you on that. I think what you said is true. The best source of most of your vitamins is from your food. If you're eating a proper diet, and I'm sure you are.
Yeah, well, me and my barbecue people.
Okay, well, maybe we should explore that a little bit. But my doctor decided to check a vitamin D level some time ago, and I'm kind of most of my work is inside. I'm working in the office, working in the hospital, and I found out my vitamin D levels were really, really low. So she recommended supplementation of vitamin D. So I think the vitamins are not for everybody, but I think if you're deficient in a vitamin, there's a good rationale for taking it. Vitamin D, of course, supports bone health and is very useful for that. And the good clinical trials showing that particularly people that are vitamin D deficient are going to benefit from vitamin D supplementation.
Let me ask you this, though. When we're talking about vitamins or supplements in general, I hear back and forth, like you two were just talking about. It's like, oh, you don't need them. You get it from natural stuff. But I also heard that when you take it in, you flush it out of your body anyway. Taking it in orally isn't really working for vitamins to do what they need to do. But then you say something like the vitamin D, and my doctor said the same thing to me, take a vitamin D supplement. So I guess they do get absorbed. What's the truth behind what your body retains, what it expels, and I'll add a complication to this question. If your body already naturally produces it, taking a supplement of it stalls your body's production of it. Is any of this true? Help me through this.
No, you got there's some good points you made there. Some vitamins that are like water soluble, like vitamin C, you take huge doses of vitamin C, and people do that for when they have a cold. And a lot of that just goes out in your waste stream. That's known. That's a water-soluble vitamin. Then there's some other vitamins that get more rapidly absorbed, like vitamin D, vitamin E. Those are fat-soluble vitamins, and they will build up. And that can actually be a problem. You can get actually disease from taking too much vitamins. Polar bear liver has a lot of vitamin A in it, and people have been poisoned by eating polar bear. You get vitaminosis A. It actually has a medical name. Vitaminosis A is taking too much vitamin A.
Okay, so
and you could certainly do that with supplements.
So what supplements do you recommend, and do you recommend at certain ages in your life?
So I just like to, with respect to recommending supplements and vitamins, it actually, and you hear this all the time, but it does help to talk to your physician. Now, a physician that is knowledgeable about supplements and would be able to help advise you there. And like myself, I take vitamin D supplementation now. And I took so much of it, my levels got too high, and when they measured them again, my doctor said, "Hey, you got to slow down on the vitamin D." So I did. So I think there's a good a reason for getting some help from your physician and advising that. But what supplements are useful? It depends on who you are. Maybe I could just step back for a moment and talk about the vitamin and supplement industry. The vitamin and supplement industry is regulated by the FDA, but the regulations are a little bit less rigorous than for drugs. They need to make their supplements in a safe way. They have to go through GMP, what's called GMP production. They have to be pure, and they have to make claims that are reasonable based on scientific evidence, but they don't have to do clinical trials of those supplements. So in this whole field of supplements, there's very little work done with long-term trials. So most of the supplements, we don't know what will happen if you take them long term. And like I said, myself, I started taking too much vitamin D. But there's short-term studies that suggest some supplements are useful for certain conditions of aging. So let me start with one, and some of these things, it's going to sound like your mom talking to you, but fish oil generally is good, and there's plenty of evidence suggesting that you have a lot of fish in your diet, you have less cardiovascular disease. Fish oil does lower fat in your blood, lowers triglycerides, and that can have a benefit for your heart. So fish oil supplementation, particularly for people that are not getting fish in their diet, and particularly for people that have high levels of fat in their blood, that's useful. So again, I can't recommend a supplement generally for everybody because I don't think there is one. I think it depends upon the person and what their conditions are.
Okay,
let me stop there.
Yeah, I have a question, and I would suggest taking the no fish burp fish supplements, by the way, because if you don't, you'll burp and you'll have that fish taste in your mouth all the time. All right, so I have a friend who's a doctor, and about a year ago, he recommended me to take cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil, a tablespoon a day. I did some research myself, and it's kind of like taking a couple of Advil every morning, but you're taking cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil. And I get a lot of cramps in my legs, and I don't have them when I take the oil. I don't know why, but this people that have cramps in their calves, when they sleep at night, which can be really tough. I don't know. I can't explain it, but when I get off the olive oil, I get the cramps. When I get back on the olive oil, the cramps go away.
Yeah, there's olive oil does have some what's called flavonoids in it. They're antioxidants, natural antioxidants, and there are other flavonoids that are antioxidants as well that could be useful, like resveratrol. That's a flavonoid. Quercetin. Those are also things that are used for aging. So no, I suspect you're doing something good for yourself there if the cramps are reduced. Another thing you could try, Frank, is magnesium supplements. I use that.
I did. I tried.
What's that?
I did. I tried
Did it work?
magnesium. No, and I tried potassium. Neither one of them worked. But the olive oil works. I don't know why. Are you familiar with telomeres? TOLOMERES. Telomeres.
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 Yeah.
That has to do with anti-aging, right?
Right. So telomeres are the tip of your chromosome. It's like the tip of a shoelace. At the end of your chromosome is this telomere, and it's very important in maintaining the chromosomes and maintaining the health of the chromosomes. And it also happens to be the timekeeper of our cells, because every time a cell divides, that telomere shortens, and then at some point, after much cell division, the cells can't divide anymore. They become senescent. That's another term for aged. They can't proliferate anymore, and they start acting like old cells. They start making a lot of inflammatory proteins, and they make the other cells around them sick. They don't perform their functions properly. So telomere erosion is one of the major aging processes. There are others, but that is an important controller of our cell life.
How do we stop it?
Well, maybe I could tell you what causes telomere erosion, and then we could talk about what might stop it. Stress seems to cause telomere erosion, and it's probably due to high levels of reactive oxygen species with stress. The Nobel laureate Elizabeth Blackburn did some nice work to look at people with PTSD, and she found these people, PTSD, people under a lot of stress, they had shorter telomeres. So, avoiding stress would seem to be a good strategy for reducing aging.
It seems
antioxidants may be useful as well, because they are, of course, reducing reactive oxygen species and reducing DNA damage. But no one's actually studied long term what antioxidants do for aging.
It seems like our country wakes up with a lot of stress every morning.
Oh yeah.
Let me ask you a question, or at least open an area of discussion. I was at the doctor with my mom, And the doctor was saying, oh, your mom looks great for her age. My mom's 90. And the doctor was saying, she doesn't look older than her mid-70s, which in today's day and age, that seems like that's not such a great compliment. But he said the thing everyone forgets when someone looks young, underneath, they are still a 90-year-old person. And all the things we do to change our appearance, to refresh, to look better, we often lose sight of the fact inside we are still aging. Are there things that we can be doing to reverse that? Are there things that actually, not just the physical appearance, but actually to keep us healthier longer? Or is this just a process that's going on and we just, genetics are going to decide for us, and if you have a healthy lifestyle and genetics are good, you have a long life?
No, it's a really good point. No, there are things that we can do, and I think the in terms of diet and dietary supplements, I always recommend, as a heart doctor, I recommend that people use a Mediterranean diet, because that actually has been studied in large long-term studies, and Mediterranean diet does seem to reduce cardiovascular events, heart attack, and increases lifespan. So that a Mediterranean diet, which has all of those vitamins that you were talking about earlier, Frank, that, and it also includes olive oil and a little red wine, modest amounts, root vegetables, a lot of vegetables and fruit in that diet. That's a very good diet. Of course, that's probably something your mother told you. In terms of supplementation, that could potentially be augmented by things that improve your metabolism. And there's a fair number of supplements that actually can improve your metabolism. I mentioned fish oils. That's one. Berberine is another, and berberine. That's another one that has some good data that it improves your metabolism, lowers your glucose, reduces or improves insulin sensitivity. And I would also could consider CoQ10. That's another one that in the heart business seems to be useful for heart failure. Patients that have diminished heart function. So I think there are some things that we can do, diet and dietary supplements. It depends upon the person and what conditions they have. And I'd like to say, everyone ages differently. We can talk a little bit about that, how people age and why is that different from one person to another?
Before we talk about that, I want to go back to what you were just saying. You talk about the benefits of a Mediterranean diet. And then when you talk about it further, you say the reasons why. It's maybe the amount of fiber, it's the oil, it's the different elements of it. So I assume science is looking at what are the actual things within this Mediterranean diet that are being beneficial. If they start packaging it in a pill form, do you get the same benefit of actually eating that diet if they have isolated the elements of it that are what are beneficial?
So the answer to your question is yes, people are studying that, but no one's really pulled apart the Mediterranean diet to understand how it would reduce cardiovascular events. The potential explanations are the antioxidants in that diet. The fruit and vegetables have a lot of what we call flavonoids. I mentioned that earlier, and other natural plant antioxidants that reduce the oxidative stress that damages your DNA and damages your proteins and accelerates aging.
But could you isolate that into pill form, or is there something unique into the process of your body retrieving it out of the natural foods that also benefits?
That is a great question, and I don't think anyone really knows the answer to that. What's the difference between taking fish oil in a capsule versus just having more dietary fish intake? I don't really think anyone knows the answer to that.
So let me ask you this. As I've gotten older, my doctor recommended Metamucil. I love it. What do you think about it?
Metamucil is great for constipation.
I don't have constipation. I just like things. I just like being regular.
Yeah, and it increases the fiber in your diet for sure.
Yeah,
and that's a way of increasing fiber.
Talk a little bit about fiber. Why it is so important that we have added fiber in our diets. What are we missing here? Is it the process of everything? The processed foods we eat have broken that down so much that the fiber that we eat naturally doesn't have the same benefit as a fiber supplement?
Yeah, I'm not an expert on that, but I mean, the general feeling is that more dietary fiber, we don't get enough dietary fiber with our processed foods, in a Western diet. And we should be eating more fiber. And again, you will get that if you eat more fruits and vegetables.
Well, okay, so let's get back to your expertise of cardiovascular health. I am on a little bit of a statin, the carotid, showing a little bit of cholesterol. What is the best diet to keep the cholesterol in check?
Yeah, again, that's why I mentioned the Mediterranean diet. It does have a beneficial effect on your lipids and your insulin sensitivity. So that would be, I would say, would be the best diet for you, for someone who has high cholesterol.
Take me into the Mediterranean.
We're not so worried these days about taking in cholesterol like eggs. You used to say to people, "Oh, you avoid eggs." That we're not saying that anymore because
Really?
there's no evidence to support that. Right. No, you can have your egg. Have that. Butter, on the other hand, saturated fat is something you should avoid. So saturated fat is butter. Unsaturated fat is oil. You mentioned the olive oil earlier.
Yeah.
That's an unsaturated fat. That's a much more healthy way to get fat into your diet. Oil is a fat, butter is a fat, but saturated fat, as in butter, is demonstrably worse for your cardiovascular system than is olive oil. So, you can use olive oil on your toast rather than butter.
Take me back to the Mediterranean diet then for a minute. For folks who can't make or aren't going to make an entire shift, what should people be putting back into their diet that may mimic some of the positive things from the Mediterranean diet so people understand where they can start if they want to start now?
Yeah. Well, basically produce, vegetables, more raw vegetables, more lettuce, salad, a great salad. One of the things that I've learned I thought was pretty interesting, a book a few years ago about eat many colors in your diet. So those colors are actually pigments that are antioxidant pigments. So like blueberries and strawberries. Those they are blue and red respectively because of the antioxidants the antioxidant pigments. Another antioxidant pigment is curcumin, which is you can actually get as a supplement, but you could also have it as a spice in your food. Turmeric is a spice that is an antioxidant. Most of the spices that we use in our foods, for example, in an Indian dish, for example, those spices are antioxidants. They're very good for you.
What about salt? People often are, got to get away from the salt, back away from the salt. Where are we on salt now?
Some of us are salt sensitive. We have high blood pressure, and it's partly due to salt, and we're very salt sensitive. That's only about 15-20% of the hypertensive population, people that have high blood pressure. So for those people that have salt sensitive high blood pressure, it's good to supplement salt with the sodium chloride with a different kind of salt, potassium chloride. So now there's in the store you can get these other salt supplements. They're actually quite good if you have high blood pressure. They have a little bit of potassium in them, replacing the sodium, and they're useful for people with high blood pressure.
Sugar, the bane of our existence. Yes or no?
Well, yes, some sugar is great for you.
Oh, good.
I like mine in the form of chocolate because chocolate also has antioxidants in it.
There you go.
The polyphenols. There's polyphenols in chocolate are actually quite good for your vasculature in moderation.
Okay.
Well, doctor, I plan to live forever, but I really don't want to work hard at it. So you got to tell me what I need to do.
I'm sorry. The best thing you can do for yourself, Ernie, is to work hard at it. So exercise is really, really important. It doesn't take a lot. You 5 days a week, get out and walk with a friend or your wife, or your wife if she's also your friend. But go out for a walk and walk fast enough so that it's difficult to have a conversation. And do that for 20-30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. And that's actually really enough to maintain your cardiovascular system. You can, if you push it more than that, that's okay too. And that can even be a little bit better. But that's all you really need to do to maintain your cardiovascular system. And that will reduce your age.
Thank you so much,
aging.
Doc.
Yeah.
All right, Dr. John Cooke is the professor and chair of the Department of Cardiovascular Sciences at Houston Methodist. Dr. Cooke, thanks for joining us. And coming up, a preview of the Houston Cinema Arts Festival. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Hi, I'm Michael Schaefer. My partner Ellen and I have been proud supporters of public radio and TV for decades.
We really would be lost without our daily fix of unbiased national and local news, cultural programming, and great entertainment.
But with recent federal defunding, stations like Houston Public Media face real challenges.
Now's the time to step up.
Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org.
Thank you.
Duncan Comprehensive Cancer Center at Baylor St. Luke's Medical Center, offering comprehensive cancer care that is compassionate, personalized, and driven by clinical research. More at stlukeshealth.org/cancer. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Trinity University in San Antonio, working to challenge and support students as they prepare for lives of purpose and continue on to fulfilling careers and advanced study. More at trinity.edu.
Support comes from Asia Society Texas, presenting its annual night market featuring food, art, shopping, and sumo wrestling demonstrations. November 7th from 6 to 10 p.m. More info at asiasocietytexas.org.
Support comes from Alley Theater. Performances of A Christmas Carol, presented by UT Health Houston, begins November 16th and features Ebenezer Scrooge and the spirits who teach the meaning of the holiday season. More at alleytheater.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous and Frank Billingsley.
Starting tomorrow, the annual Houston Cinema Arts Festival is returning for what will be, I can't believe this, its 17th year. I remember when it all started. Presented by Houston Cinema Arts Society, this year's festival will feature a lineup of screenings, performances, and events, all under the same theme of Here, asking what it truly means to be present, particularly as we navigate the uncertainty of the times we are living in. To tell us more about the upcoming festival and its lineup, we are once again joined by Katie Creeggan-Rios, who is the Executive Director of Houston Cinema Arts Society. Katie, welcome back to Hello Houston.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. And
For
chat
folks
about
who
the
want to
festival.
jump in on the conversation, 713-440-8870. And before we get into it all, if you're watching on YouTube, you will know she has red hair. Today is Be Good to Red Hair Day, something like that. National Red Hair Appreciation Day.
Yeah, redhead.
We're both Scottish.
We love the redheads.
I'm a third Scottish. How much are you? Do you know?
We're a little bit more than a third.
Yeah, so we're probably related.
We probably are.
Yeah,
it's not a big place.
Cousin Katie.
Well, as 100% Greek, we don't turn redheads until we turn 50, and then all the women dye their hair red for some reason, but it's not real.
Stop it.
Anyway,
Ours is real.
More importantly, I can't believe it's been 17 years.
17 years we've been doing the Houston Cinema Arts Festival. Yeah, it's very exciting.
What excites you about this year?
The festival is just bigger and better than it's ever been this year, in my opinion. We have really leaned into celebrating Houston and all of that integrated art and the amazing talent that we have here in town. We have a photography exhibit as part of the festival, 3 live music performances, talks with so many artists from Houston or with ties to Houston, really celebrating what makes our city such a special place to make art.
Folks often get confused between Cinema Arts Society and Cinema Arts Festival. Cinema Arts Society throws the festival every
That's
year.
correct, yeah. So I run the Cinema Arts Society. Our 2 biggest programs that we do are the Houston Media Conference and the Houston Cinema Arts Festival.
What are the nuts and bolts? Where and when exactly does all this happen?
We open tomorrow, November 6th. Our opening night party is at Cafe Brazil in Montrose.
Oh,
and
nice.
The opening night screening is at the Museum of Fine Arts Houston. We are at venues all over the city for the next 11 days, the 6th through the 16th. We're at the Museum of Fine Arts. We're at the new Rice Seraphim Hall cinema space they just built. We're at the Deluxe Theater in the 5th Ward, which is one of my favorite places in town. We have we have our photography exhibit also at Cafe Brazil. We have our musical performances at Wonky Power. We're doing a partnership with Aurora Picture Show, so we'll be there a couple days.
So where's the website if we want all the info?
CinemaHTX.org. CinemaHTX.org. Hit the festival tab at the top, and you'll see our whole schedule. There's something for everyone.
What I love about it is it's cinema arts. So it's not just we show a movie. that you have found a way for it to bridge out. Over the years, I've seen it grow from not just, as you said, the film. There are musical performances, there are art exhibitions, there are people that come into town, they talk about their art, and there are people from within town that talk about their art. And you build a whole community that's saying cinema is just a launching pad into so much more of what we see as our culture.
Absolutely. I think film is one of the most accessible mediums for sharing stories and building community, but we also live in a town with an amazing fine art scene outside of just filmmaking. And if you're throwing a festival here in town, you've got to throw some love to our photographers, our musicians. There's so much here to do. It's just such a rich town for art, and why wouldn't we showcase that during our festival as well?
Do they make submissions to you for their displays, or do you go to them?
Our feature films, our full-length films are all at this time curated, but we do have submission-based short film showcases and short film competitions. So we have a Houston Stories block that's all Houston filmmakers. That's submissions-based. And we have a short film competition called Borders No Borders. That's Texas and the surrounding regions, regional emerging filmmakers, and that is a submissions-based competition as well.
So Ernie mentioned that the theme is here, H-E-R-E. I say that because there's another way to spell here. Right. But it's here, like
present.
What's the meaning? Why am I here? What's the meaning of my life?
Yeah.
Do you send that out to people and say, okay, this is our theme? How do they respond to that?
Our filmmakers and our artists this year have been so excited about the theme. Jasmine Morano, our programmer, did an amazing job of thinking about the films that she was already talking to and looking at that she thought would be a good fit for us, and how that tied into the theme of here, staying present, staying grounded. And all of our artists, when asked to kind of embrace that theme in their workshops and their talks, have been just so excited. And we have open screenwriting workshops where they're going to think about the theme as they write, and conversations with artists who are working in different mediums, or like physical photography or 35 millimeter film mediums, thinking about being tactile and present as part of the theme. It's just a really cool. It's given them a lot of meat to work with.
One thing that I'm excited about is I get to, and you'll see where this is going, I get to moderate a panel after a screening on Saturday. But what's really fascinating is where it's happening, at the Deluxe Theater. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about that.
The Deluxe Theater is an amazing venue. It's in the historic Fifth Ward. It was one of the first movie theaters in America to show films by Black artists. When the South was still segregated, Black artists could go show their films there or watch films there. It was the site of the first ever racially integrated art show, which was sponsored by the DeMenil family here in Houston, the first ever racially integrated art show. That's a huge part of our history. And the film that you're moderating the conversation for, which is so exciting, is called Raising Anaya. It's about a young dancer here from Houston who developed dance pieces and dance practice as a reaction to climate change. And they actually shot a lot of the film at the Deluxe. So we'll see the Deluxe in the film and watch it on screen there in the space where it was filmed. So that's an incredibly cool kind of coming home full circle moment for a theater that has such a rich history here in Houston.
And that's 2:00 on Saturday.
2:00 on Saturday.
At the Deluxe, which I'm just excited to be in the Deluxe to see it. And I'm so excited about the way you always think beyond just showing the film, but the environment in which you show it in. And that's such an interesting element of what you folks do in your festival.
Yeah, it's one thing to just show a movie or watch a movie on Netflix, but thinking about how the space that you're in informs your experience watching the film, I think is so important. And if you can pair it with a gallery exhibit or a performance or a talk about that creative placemaking, it makes the experience of watching a movie together so much more rich.
Sounds like you're herding cats. I don't know how you do
it. It's a lot. I've sat
chaotic.
down with you folks at different points over the years, over those 17 years, and they've laid out what's on the schedule or what's being planned. And just like you're saying, Frank, it's like, how do you coordinate all of this? It's so many moving parts. Talk about the films that you think people need to have on their radar.
Well, we just mentioned Raising Anaya. I
Absolutely,
think it's an amazing.
Come hang out with a great talk back.
Hang out with me and Ernie on Saturday. The other film I'm just incredibly excited about this weekend is Charlie Bird on Sunday afternoon. This is Samantha Smart is from League City originally. She's an actor, and she wrote the film and stars in it, and it was shot here in Houston as well. It won a bunch of audience awards at Tribeca. It's an amazing film. So that's at the Museum of Fine Arts on Sunday, Charlie Bird. And we have our Houston Stories block, the Borders No Borders short film competition are both amazing. We also close out the festival on Sunday the 16th with CineSpace, which is one of my other favorite things that we do. This is space movies in partnership with NASA. And it's a competition. We get filmmakers from around the world that submit.
And they get access to footage that NASA have, if I'm remembering correctly,
yeah.
and then they can create upon that.
They have to use NASA space station footage in their film. So it's all about creative editing of that space footage.
Are there ultimate prizes or just the honor of being a part of this?
For those two competitions, Borders and CineSpace, the emerging filmmakers do win cash prizes for those. But for our curated features, it's just celebrating good art.
Any focus on younger people, younger emerging artists?
For our competitions, it's mostly emerging artists. Not always, but you can be emerging at any age.
We got about
that's a good point.
25 seconds left for this question. So a lot of people get intimidated by the concept of a festival and that they talk to them about how you enter into this, how you can become part of this world without being intimidated.
You know, it's just like buying a ticket to go to a movie. Check out the schedule, pick a film. You can buy a single ticket and that's okay. You don't have to think about navigating the whole schedule and doing the pass and going to all the things. Just pick a movie you want to see and come hang out with us.
Well, I must say, the weather for the entire festival looks primo.
Thank you for putting that call in for us, Frank. I appreciate
It's
it.
very good at that.
My
Katie,
pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm
Katie
so honored.
Creeggan-Rios is the executive director of the Houston Cinema Arts Society. Thank you for joining us here on Hello Houston. Houston Cinema Arts Festival begins tomorrow, November 6th, runs through November 16th. On Saturday, I'll have the honor of hosting the Talkback in conjunction with the screening of the film Rising Anaya at the historic Deluxe Theater at 2 p.m. For more screenings and everything festival has to offer, go to cinemahtx.org.
As only Ernie can do it.
Yeah, we'll see.
You're going to be great. All right, that brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for watching and listening to Hello Houston. We'll be back tomorrow with more conversations. This is Hump Day on News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menhevar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from the 2025-2026 Imprint Brown Reading Series with Booker Prize winner Kiran Desai reading from her new novel, The Loneliness of Sonia and Sonny, Monday, November 17th at the Alley Theater. More at imprint.org.
Houston Public Media is a